Welcome back, everyone. We are live. It is now Tuesday morning. You'll probably see this Tuesday, but probably still Monday, depending on your time zone, late Monday evening. But in this video, I want to talk about something quite unique. We've never really talked about Social Security in this sense, but I do want to talk about Social Security and particularly the worst states in the United States to live in if you are solely relying on Social Security benefits. So not only that you're on Social Security, but you're specifically only relying on Social Security benefits, and that's your only stream of income. We want to talk about the worst states, and some of these actually might surprise you. Obviously, you could probably point out the obvious ones. Let us know down below in the comment section which ones you believe are the worst states to live in before we even get started. But you probably won't guess a few of them. Some of them might surprise you. With that being said, let's get started and dive right into today's video. But before we do, as always, make sure you focus do a couple things for me. Number one, give this video a tremendous thumbs up, smash the like button. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you haven't already, of course, make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Click that big red button and have notifications turned on. When we do hit 20,000 subscribers, we will do a cash giveaway where we give away double the amount of cash that we gave away 10K. But if you don't want to wait until then, if you're not patient enough to wait until 20,000 subscribers, well, I have news for you. If this video gets to 500 likes, we will do a smaller cash giveaway where we give away $100 to a few of your lucky subscribers. So a couple opportunities there for you folks to earn some free cashola, all on me, with no gimmicks, no sales pitch, no nonsense, no BS, all free cash just for supporting my channel. With that being said, let's get it going and take a look at this list. And this was strictly analyzed, right? So this isn't just based on opinion or bias. This is actual fact, actual data, just so you understand. So no bias here. So before we even get to that, though, you have to understand what the average monthly payment is in the United States for Social Security retirement benefits, and that is exactly $1,613.77. Definitely could be higher, and for most of you, it's probably not enough. Let me know down below in the comment section if you wish your benefits were higher, or if you're happy with just $1,613.77. Let us know. It's simply not enough to get by in most places in America, but Social Security was never meant to serve as a retiree's sole source of income. Yet for many seniors, Social Security is exactly that, which won't cover the cost of living in some states, probably most. Now, you may be able to scrape by in the cheaper 35 states that are not on this list, but according to this report identified 15 states that retirees can scratch off the list if Social Security is their only source of income. Number one, let's start with, it's in the order of best of the worst to the worst of the worst. So in other words, obviously these are all bad, but if you had to live in any of them, well, you would want to live in the ones that we start with. So it's the best of the worst to the worst of the worst. Here are the states where a Social Security check alone will not pay the bills. Let's get started. So, New Hampshire, where the cost of living index is 109.9. January of this year, the average one-bedroom rent was $1,209. That's for one bedroom. And at the tail end of 2021, the Laconia Daily Sun reported that it cost an average of $1,180,933 to retire in New Hampshire. Obviously, that's not for 1 year. That's for typical 65-year-old and up. That's, just so you understand, $60,500 more dollars than the typical 65-year-old would spend, thanks to New Hampshire's high cost of living. You don't even have to do the math there to figure out that Social Security benefits would not cover that nearly $1.2 million to retire in New Hampshire. Next up on the list, even worse, is Alaska. So, Alaska, where the cost of living index is 127.1, the January 2022 average one-bedroom rent was $1,100. Now, if you notice, that is less. But you have to understand that the cost of living in remote and import-reliant Alaska is infamously high. Housing, though, isn't too big of a contributor. The typical home value in the state is roughly $311,000 according to Zillow, compared to nearly $326,000 nationwide. So Alaska doesn't necessarily have the world's highest costs of living, but it is still, as far as housing expenses, but it still has a high cost of living in other areas. So just understand that. So if you're looking for a pretty expensive, luxurious place to live, but on the low, maybe go to Alaska. Let's head up to the next state on this list is Virginia. And by the way, let us know if you live in any of these states and if you're on Social Security benefits. That would be a double whammy. Definitely let us know if you're maybe originally from or you currently reside in or know people from these states. Let us know. Let's head now to Virginia, where the cost of living index is 101.8, and the January 2022 average one-bedroom rent was $1,344. Although the state offers good tax benefits to retirees, Virginia is generally an inhospitable place to live, or rather to try to stretch that Social Security check, but it depends where you live. So busy and expensive Northern Virginia, particularly the DC metro, drives the state's average cost of living way up. Try the Shenandoah Valley instead if you're looking for some reprieve. Now let's head now to the next state, which is Delaware. Cost of living index is 107.9 there. January 2022 average one-bedroom rent was $1,307. Tiny Delaware has long been a retirement haven because of its miles of beaches and proximity to DC, Philly, and New York. It's not a place where you'd want to live on a small fixed income, but the absence of a sales tax is as big of a draw, along with all that coastline, and obviously that attracts a lot of retirees and people on a fixed income with no sales tax and some nice views, but still a high cost of living nonetheless. Then Colorado, where it can get very expensive. If you see some of these vacation homes, what they go for in Colorado, it could be prices that are much higher in states that you couldn't even imagine. Colorado does have a cost of living index of 105.3. January 2022, the average one-bedroom rent was $1,341. Housing is one of the biggest expenses facing retirees or anyone else living in Colorado. Typical home there now costs more than $545,000, well over $500,000. Oregon cost of living super high now, $130.1. The January 2022 average one-bedroom rent was $1,114. So not the highest on this list, still high nonetheless. The population of Oregon has grown by more than 10% over the last decade, according to SoFi. The state is still home to fewer than 1.81 million housing units, however, which tells much of the story of the state's high cost of living. So, low housing inventory there, and that's why prices are so up, and it's really a microcosm of what's going on in the rest of the country as well. Florida now, which is probably surprising for a lot of you, as it is a retiree haven, especially for us Northerners. So many of us want to go down to the South, and especially Florida. But the cost of living index there is 100.3, and you don't necessarily get a break that you would have thought of by living in Florida. January 2022, average one-bedroom rent was $1,434. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is the highest on this list so far. That is correct. So, Florida, like we mentioned, has been America's primo retirement destination for generations. But life there doesn't come cheap. You can certainly find less expensive places to retire, but not in America's most coveted beach paradises. In fact, you'll pay a whole lot more to retire on the coast of California or Hawaii. Quite interesting. Connecticut, cost of living index is 121.6. Granted, there are bad areas in Connecticut and good areas, so it obviously depends. But January 2022, the average one-bedroom rent was $1,242, and everything costs more across the board in Connecticut, which is consistently one of the country's most expensive states. That includes groceries, transportation, and healthcare, but the real doozies are the housing and utility costs. Not a shocker there for those of you from Connecticut. Washington, state of Washington, that is. The cost of living index is 111.6. January 2022, the average one-bedroom rent was $1,376. Utilities are cheaper in Washington than in the country as a whole, much cheaper actually, but retirees and everyone else who lives there will pay more than average across every other cost of living category. Now heading to Maryland. Depends where, of course, but in general, Maryland is one of the highest cost of living states. Cost of living index there is 124. 2022, this January rather. Average one-bedroom rent was $1,397, and only a handful of states have higher housing costs than Maryland. Healthcare is significantly cheaper than average, but nothing else is. Now, New Jersey, not surprising, cost of living index is 115.2. In January 2022, the average one-bedroom rent was $1,490. Virtually everything is more expensive than average in New Jersey. But the most dangerous hidden cost is the state's notoriously high taxes, that is, property taxes in particular, which high property taxes, of course, leads to high rent. Residents of the state will pay nearly $1 million in taxes, $932,000 to be exact, over the course of their lifetimes, according to Bloomberg. That's more than residents of any other state. Sky-high taxes in Jersey. You're not going to live there if you're looking to retire on your benefits. That is. Massachusetts, cost of living index is 135. The January 2022 average one-bedroom rent was $1,385, and residents of only 4 states suffer from higher housing costs than the people who call Massachusetts home. Everything costs more than average in the notoriously expensive New England state, but not just with housing, but groceries, healthcare, and miscellaneous expenses being especially pricey. So everything sevenfold, much higher in Massachusetts. Now to one that you knew had to be on the list, and as a New Yorker, of course, I could testify. Cost of living index is 148.2, where the average one-bedroom rent of January 2022 was $1,588. Find me a place for that price, because I couldn't find it. Now, with the national baseline set at 100, the cost of housing in New York is a whopping 230.1 on the cost of living index. Healthcare is only a little above average, and utilities are actually a little below. But everything else costs more in New York, not surprising. Granted, there are some healthcare programs in New York that perhaps other states don't have access to, so that could be why healthcare is not necessarily sky high. But, if you look at the average, it certainly is still higher. Now to California, you had to be on there. Cost of living index is 142.2, where the January 2022 average one-bedroom rent was $1,652. And if you live in California, you probably couldn't find that either, because these rent prices are definitely not common trends, just based on my analysis and as a real estate investor, what I see on a daily basis. Now, with a housing index above 200 and above average costs in every major cost of living category, California has earned its rep as a high-cost, high-tax retirement oasis. If you're planning to retire on Social Security alone, California dream will probably remain just that, a dream. Now let's do a bit of a drum roll. Which one do you think is the highest cost living estate? Which one is the worst? Let us know down below in the comment section. Before we get started, I'll give you folks a couple seconds or so to guess, make that guess before we announce it. Which state is the highest cost of living state in the U.S.? Alrighty, have you made your guesses? Let's see if you get them right. The highest cost of living state, in other words, the worst state to retire on if you're on Social Security and rely on that alone, solely is the state of Hawaii, with a cost of living index of 193.3. January 2022 average one-bedroom rent, $1,706. Right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, between America's west coast and the far east of Asia, is Hawaii, which imports everything it can grow or make on its own from a world away. Retiring in paradise is not cheap. The typical home there now costs more than $800,000 according to Zillow. And that's a fact. Not surprising there for Hawaii. virtually impossible to find an affordable home in Hawaii, but that's the case for many states. Let us know if you know anyone or live in or originally from Hawaii. Definitely let us know. Curious to hear. But that is your list of the 15 worst states to live on, from best of the worst to worst of the worst, if you're solely relying on Social Security benefits. Granted, living anywhere is not cheap, but just statistically speaking, those states are the absolute worst of the worst. Now, I'm curious what kind of numbers compare to these states that you live if you don't live in any of these states on this list. Curious what that one bedroom costs you if you do live in a one bedroom. Curious what kind of utilities and healthcare expenses you pay compared to these states. Just wonder how bad it is in those 35 states, and I wonder what that list would look like as far as the worst of the worst to, rather the best of the worst to the worst of the worst. It'd be interesting if you make a list of those 35. But there you have it, folks. The worst states to live in if you're on Social Security, and you definitely want to stay away from those states if you're looking to retire. You might be able to find affordable options, and maybe, I'm not an economist, but perhaps there could be some stagnation now with the housing market. Can't go up forever, and perhaps a lot of people are predicting a bubble, that we might see a crash. But for right now, just at least anecdotally, what I see in my area, it ain't happening anytime soon, and the prices continue to skyrocket and go up. So we'll see what happens, but you might be able to snag a deal if there is a crash. And now you have Bank of America and Deutsche Bank saying that there might be a recession come 2023, next year, maybe late 2023, they're saying. So that could lead to certainly some lower housing costs. Now, granted, if you look at rent numbers in a recession, rent continues to go up. Rent actually only goes up during recessions. So that's why owning property, especially as an investor, is truly one of the best inflation hedges, and you're really bulletproof in every sense, because even if the value of property goes down, that usually means there is a recession, which usually means people are hit hard with their jobs and the economy, and then those people turn to renting, and so that's why rents continue to go up. So as long as you don't sell, once you lock in the sale and you actually sell the property, yes, that's when you lock in the loss, if in fact the value goes down. But historically speaking, that's not the case, and rent continues to go up. So just telling you folks from my point of view as a real estate investor in my young career. So hopefully you understand that, and hopefully that helped you folks. Hope you got value out of this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up, smash the like button, share the video with a friend, get the word out. And we will see you folks next time in the next video. I hope you are subscribed. Click that big red button and have notifications turned on. Super important. If you want to get some free stocks, all on me, all free, use the links down below in the description of this video. Sign up with the brokerage platforms Robinhood and Webull. You'll get some free stocks, some valued to thousands of dollars in some cases. And if you want to connect with me on social media, I am on Instagram and Facebook. And you can use those links down below in the description and connect me across all platforms. Hope to see you there, and I hope to see you folks in the next one. Take care for now. Thank you so much.